You've come to the right place if you're looking to create, launch, and scale a high-value online training program. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of LifterLMS, the most powerful learning management system for WordPress. Stay to the end. I've got something special for you. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMS Cast. I'm joined by a special guest and friend. His name is Anil Gupta. He's from Multidots. That's over at multidots.com, which is a WordPress development agency. He's also got a sweet new tool called Multicollab. That's what we're really going to get into today. That's over at multicollab.com. It's Google Docs style editorial commenting for WordPress. Welcome back on the show, Anil. I think you might have been here before, or maybe this is your first one. I've just run into you a lot in WordPress, but anyways, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, this is first time on your podcast, but you are right that we met multiple different times at different WordCamps, and yeah, I'm very excited to be here and very excited to talk about the collaboration and editorial commenting and all of that for the WordPress.
Awesome. Before we get into Multicollab, I've always been impressed by your agency, Multidots. Can you just give us the high level about like what Multidots is and how it stands out in the space and kind of the story there?
Of course. So we are celebrating our 13th anniversary end of this month. So we are like 13 years old. And with Multidots, we are focusing a lot of custom enterprise level migrations and customizations for the WordPress for large media and publishing companies. And so we work with news and media companies and help them migrating over to WordPress if they're using their proprietary CMS or not an open source CMS like Sitecore or Django. So that's our core expertise. We are right now 90 plus team. We are distributed in 3 different continents: Asia, Europe, and North America. And we have 2 offices, one in India and one here in Austin, Texas. When I say the offices, we actually nobody cares about the real office anymore, but we still have a physical place, where we sometimes like to meet and connect and get some work done.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about Multicollab. So first at a high level, like how do you describe it? What's the elevator pitch?
I would say Multicollab is the same commenting, commenting and collaboration tool that we use inside Google Doc. When we write a Google Doc, we kind of mention different users, have comments, replies, and if we enable suggestions more, then we can see who is doing what. So we're trying to bring the same interface and features inside WordPress. So instead of traveling between Google Doc and WordPress backend, we are trying to, with Multicollab, we are trying to bring the same experience and features and tool set inside WordPress.
I think it's so brilliant. Anybody who's been running an online business has likely used Google Docs and spreadsheets and everything. And once you start building a team and needing to collaborate on documents and commenting, and you get used to that as a team. One of the interesting things with course creators and people building online education portals or remote schools, the ones that I see that are the most successful are almost always never a solo act of just one person. There's like a team. It might be a small team, might be a big team, but there's a lot of collaboration going on. So I'm just super excited about this for the online learning community, because these are not simple sites. Maybe there's an expert and then there's like a marketing copywriter coming in and somebody else who weighs in on decisions and things like that. How did the need emerge? Like, what did you see? Tell us more about the desire to be like, I think there's a product here.
Yeah. So the idea came out as one of our client. They're very large enterprise, and they have, I think, more than 300 or 400 authors. So they asked us like, hey, we were looking for a tool inside WordPress where all our authors can collaborate with each other. And then we asked that question, like, what do you mean by collaboration? And then they say, like, they should be able to leave comments to each other. They should be able to mention each other. And then some of the authors with the right permissions should be able to see the content and approve some of those changes. So before those changes gets published, we want that accept and reject workflow and should be able to collaborate with each other. And then we like, okay, so all of those features that you are asking for, it's already exist in Google Doc, right? So so we were kind of trying to save some time and money for them, and we wanted to kind of present all the different options. And while we were troubleshooting and having that discussion and understanding the requirement, we kind of learned many interesting things from them. And one of them was like, yeah, you're right that Google Doc offers some of those features, but if using the Google Doc you have to do multiple different trips between that document. And we have been building a lot of custom blocks and custom plugins for them. And those blocks and plugins have dynamic content. So then Google Doc is actually, if you look at the WordPress backend, and if you look at the Google Doc, right? So WordPress backend is not a straight one page like Canvas, right? It has a lot of dynamic elements that's kind of, goes on and off in the post or blog that we write or page that we create with WordPress. And not having, using Google Doc actually eliminates all those cool features, that custom features or custom blocks. We are not able to leverage that because Google Doc is a plain document. You write the content and copy and paste. So that's where we saw the first opportunity and like a big a business case where like, okay, now we understand. And also the comment and all of that lives on Google server, right? So a lot of that communication, they wanted to keep all that conversation data within the WordPress, because when they install the WordPress, the beauty of the WordPress is they own, that everything is within their server, and the content, when it goes on a Google Doc, then it lives on Google server. So it's like fragmented. Your content is, half of your content is here, but most of the conversation that happened during that collaboration stage, that lives there, and we don't have the traces of that inside the WordPress. So we kind of spotted 2 or 3 these opportunities from them, and then there was a stage where we were looking for plugins, and we didn't find a solution in WordPress where we can leave inline comment, and within the Gutenberg or within the WordPress editor, we are able to have that collaboration workflow. And that's when we decided to build this plugin, and we talked to the client who's like, all right, we'll build this feature, but Multidots will be launch this as a separate product, but we'll give you a license of this, and we'll not charge you for this feature. So that's how the product came in. We already had our first client, and we started to work on that. When the prototype was ready, we deliver it to them. We kind of continue to get the feedback. So fortunately, yeah, the first user of this product was a large enterprise with more than 300 authors.
Wow. Wow.
So that was the playground.
That sounds familiar. My product story kind of comes out of an agency need with a big client as well. Those are often the best places for products to be born.
Yeah.
And I've worked with a lot of external writers and things, and every
Mhm.
time, for example, there's this wonderful woman, her name is Jean. She helps write some of our case studies. And I'm like, we're out in the Google Doc and we're working on the Google Doc, and I know this is going to be a post on the site, but it's those collaboration tools. Like we can't do it over here. We have to do it out there. But that's a really awesome problem to solve. And I think I even heard Matt Mullenweg once say that he writes in Google Docs or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's like there's so much, like WordPress is the content management system. We should be able to manage the collaboration around the content in there, just like a home for WordPress. Um,
Right. So that's one thing. Yeah. So one thing I noticed that when it comes to publishing, the workflow of the publishing until now is that where you kind of start your first draft on a Google Doc, and you draft the content in Google Doc, you collaborate there, and you edit it, co-edit it, collaborate it. And then at the end, when the article is done, you copy it and paste it. So WordPress has not been, been utilized as much as it should be to kind of providing this creation to publishing interface. It was more like you create, collaborate, co-edit everything outside WordPress, and you just copy and paste and hit the publish button. And that's where we saw this opportunity where bringing this entire experience within the WordPress, then you don't have to leave the WordPress. You draft, edit. Right now we don't have the co-edit feature, but the phase 3 of the Gutenberg, where we are hoping that the co-editing will be introduced and launched. And once we have that, then you draft, edit, co-edit, collaborate, and publish all of these steps within the WordPress.
what's so beautiful about this is it seems like writing is this like creative, free form thing, but you just like totally structured it right there. Like, hey, there's actually a process here. It goes through this phase and this phase. And by co-edit, you mean like people literally typing in the same area from different places? Is that what you mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super cool. I the first time I saw that feature, I can kind of remember it in Google Docs when I was collaborating. This is when I had an agency with a client, and we were collaborating on a document in real time while screen sharing with the client. I'm like, this thing's amazing to empower people to come together and be able to create, a message or capture ideas and stuff like that. How does
Yeah.
it how does it work post publish? Like what if is it really for leading up to the first publish, or can it be used after publishing a piece of content out of draft mode? Yeah.
Right. So right now, the way we see, multi-collab is being utilized is more on the before publishing. So before publishing, all sort of collaboration that you need to kind of get that content published. Once it's published, and if you're not editing it, then on the front end, you we there are no any features that we are offering right now, and I don't think so that with Multicollab will be right feature, because our goal is to kind of empower the publishers and editorial team during the process of publishing. So once the article is published, unless like if they are moving that article from published to draft, and then they can collaborate again. But at this moment, it is only on the draft stage.
That makes sense. Is there you mentioned, I mean, the whole world has changed in WordPress in terms of blocks and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like as long as there's a text area, or like what is it? Like there's so many different types of blocks. Like, there's the bullets, there's the paragraph, the numbered list and everything. Like which kind of blocks can this be used with?
So yeah, that was the biggest challenge actually, to make this multi-collab compatible for all these different types of blocks.
Right.
And so our first version that we launched, that was supporting only text-based blocks. So
Mhm.
you can comment and collaborate on paragraph, text, headings, like anything we know which is text-based. But then just like last year, my team, they solved this problem, and now Multicollab also supports non-text blocks like media blocks. So you can comment on audio, video, photos, and a lot of other complex blocks. And again, there are, I think, thousands of different types of blocks. So we haven't tested it like all the different, even the custom blocks, but our first goal is to make Multicollab compatible for all native blocks that WordPress comes with. And that includes text and non-text, both blocks. So my understanding is that so far, all the native blocks, you can collaborate on that. But if there are custom blocks built by a third-party developer or other developer, then that is something that we haven't tested that yet. But my understanding is it should work, because the functionality, the way we have built is inside Gutenberg, anything which is text or media, you should be able to comment.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit more workflow. From my experience working in collaboration on content, there's kind of two ways to kind of pick up where you left off. One is your inbox. You're like this morning I was in something and I had like 15 emails from something I was collaborating on with somebody. And then the other way is like in the interface itself. Can you tell us how, like what people can expect to so that they can, you have the challenge of making the complex simple, which you've done, but how do you make the magic happen so that people can pick up where they left off or go where they need to be?
So there are few features that we have introduced, which I believe will help with this requirement. So one is email notification. So for every time somebody mentions you in the comment or tag you in the comment, you get an email notification. So that's way that you don't have to stay logged into the WordPress backend all the time. If someone mentions you or assign a comment to you, you get an email notification, and then you can easily jump back into the conversation. So and that's also pretty standard in Google. I think one of the best part of the Google Doc is those mentions and email notifications. So we have integrated that in Multicollab, and that works perfectly fine. Apart from that, we have a dashboard where if when you log into the WordPress backend, you can see different tasks assigned to you. So different comments assigned to you, different suggestions, which requires you to review and approve or reject. So we are creating a little, those task dashboard where you don't have to go into like hundreds of different posts where you are being mentioned or being tagged or assigned. So you can easily it's like to-do list, where you can kind of find the tasks where you need to pay attention to. So those are some of the features that we think, we are trying to build into the Multicollab, where you can easily come and pick up the conversation. So I think those are some of the areas where I think you can achieve that workflow.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So go check out Multicollab. That's multicollab.com. That's really cool. I can't wait to play with this on my next collaborative project. I wanted to ask you some more questions about Multidots. What's it like in the enterprise space? Like if there's a WordPress professional out there that's listening to this, and maybe they're doing a lot of small business work or personal sites for people or kind of smaller clients. How do you describe what it's like to run an enterprise agency? How's it different? And you're a WordPress VIP, which is awesome. So like, what makes the magic happen doing WordPress enterprise work for the aspiring WordPress professional out there?
Sure. Yeah, I think there are So when we look at the WordPress, right, the foundation and the core of the WordPress is the same WordPress that is being utilized by a high school kid, for his or her hobby blog. And it's the same core WordPress that is also being utilized by these big enterprises like PepsiCo or Ask Media or News Corp. So the foundation is the same, so it's the same foundation they both are using, but the way the WordPress is different for the enterprises. That's where some of these requirements comes into the picture. For example, security, data security. So enterprise will be more concerned about how we are handling the security in the WordPress. So we pay a lot of attention to make sure that all the plugins that we recommend, so it has the highest level of code audit and things like that. So it's not something that we can just go and install any plugin. We have to be very, very mindful about that. So plugin recommendations is one thing where you need to be very, very mindful. Second is code base that you and when I said the code, the performance also matters, because here we are talking about millions of people visiting a website, and something is not working. It can affect very badly as a business to these enterprises. So that's another area where we also spend a lot of time and energy to make sure the code is secure and optimized for the best performance. And third is, I think, it's more like less is more approach. So we try to, when we build a website for enterprise, we try to build less features and less plugins and less code, because then it is more optimized and we can see it, we can control it, and we know how the workflow works. So that's what we try to do, like to see how we can kind of optimize the WordPress for best performance and productivity. So elimination is also one of the, sometimes we feel like big enterprise probably needs lots of plugins and features. That's not true. Actually, we try to make a decision that instead of using 15 plugins, how can we actually build essential feature in one plugin? Because each plugin, some of this enterprise, probably they might need just 10% of that plugin. The 80% of the features and the code is not going to be utilized, but then it will create a burden on the code. So one of the important thing that we as an enterprise look at as how we can eliminate unnecessary code, unnecessary feature, and keep it lean, thin, and minimal, so that it gives the best performance and it's stable and scalable. So those are I think the main areas when it comes to making a decision and about what goes into an enterprise WordPress. So that's from the WordPress perspective. From the agency perspective, I think it's a big responsibility. So when we work with enterprise, it's we need to have a lot of patience, because there is a long vendor onboarding process. There is a lot of audits that they want to make sure that our financials are good. They want to make sure that our infrastructure will support their needs. So those are also something where, as an agency owner, you need to pay attention to. So, and great team, you really need to have a very smart and talented team in order to work with the enterprise, because there might be a lot of technical and non-technical challenges. And so we also pay a lot of emphasis on non-technical aspect of services. So code deployment is all something that is important, but we also pay a lot of focus on customer services. So we create video tutorials to even how to log in into WordPress, because some of these enterprise users, they never use WordPress. So we need to be very very mindful about creating all that documentation and educational trainings and materials, which they can utilize. So we provide training workshop to our clients team on how to use Gutenberg, how to use WordPress, how to edit a page. So like those basic level stuff, plus even some advanced workflow management. So training and education is also something that goes as a part of our deliverable to a lot of these enterprise clients.
Thanks for sharing all that. I really appreciate that. That's a lot of words of wisdom there. I know you folks focus a lot on migrations too into WordPress from these other, you mentioned Sitecore, and there's many others out there. Help us understand the market. Like what causes people to end up choosing to go to WordPress when they've been on these proprietary systems, or the enterprise level? What brings people to WordPress? Or do you go find them and convince them, or they've already in their mind, they've chosen like, oh, okay, we're ready for WordPress, or both?
Actually, it's both. But majority of the clients that we work with, we have seen that they are 90% sold on WordPress. So it's just that 10% push, that's where we kind of help them navigate some of those questions and the confusions that they have. But in answer to your question about what draws them to WordPress, I think the biggest factor that we have seen is the cost of ownership. I have seen, how much the other non-open source CMS and the license-based CMS, the amount of money that they charge versus over the period of time. So the cost of ownership, we have seen that is very attractive for the enterprises when they switch to WordPress. And the second biggest reason that we have seen people are more interested to migrate to WordPress or want to migrate to WordPress is ease of use. So they will tell us when we kind of during our discovery workshop, where they will ask that question like, all right, tell us how you edit this page. This is like home page or like whatever page, right? Tell us what are the steps that involves in if you have to edit something on the page. And we have seen the amount of time it takes, the frustrations and complexity for the technical user, and so that is something where we have seen that it's so hard and difficult for them to just edit something in their CMS. And when we show them, when we give them a demo with our workflow, like we will show them like, hey, this is how the WordPress works. You go on that, click on, add a page and post, and you can select all these blocks. This is how you can kind of work. This is how you can collaborate. And so that's one part where they're like, wow, we didn't know that it's that easy to edit something on the page. So yeah, a lot of WordPress users, we take it for granted, but actually that's one of the big superpower of WordPress, which is easy to edit and easy to use the backend interface.
That's awesome. Can you give us some words of wisdom in that you have a large company in USA and in India? As the world moves on, it's so global in terms of people collaborating around services and products and projects. I've seen you over a long period of time, like work across the entire world. What are some tips you have? I heard you say earlier before we hit record that you like the East Coast United States time zone. Maybe start there and then take us into other tips you have for international collaboration.
So that part of like team communication and collaboration, we are still, I would say, we are still in the experiment phase. So we haven't found one right process or tool. Yeah. But what we have done is, I think, especially when everyone is distributed, we are emphasizing more on written communication is one thing that we have seen is super actually helpful and works a lot. So
moving away
initially,
from the meetings.
true. Yeah. So that's one thing that we are right now internally working, where we are finding more ways to collaborate asynchronously. I mean, this is not something that new, I think a lot of companies, product and agencies in WordPress ecosystem, and even outside ecosystem, they are all experimenting with async communication. And it is actually quite effective. And the way we have seen that, where what we try to do is, ask that question every time, like, do I really need a meeting, or I can just create draft a document, or create a short, like a Loom video, or screencast or something like that, where you can just provide the instructions. So I actually love it, so instead of working from one place where everyone is kind of like always expected to respond in real time, we have seen that our team and myself, we have been much more effective when we all kind of work around the clock. So we see this a huge benefit that our team is distributed and are in a different time zone, because now we can work around the clock. So if I have a presentation here, right, we can work 24 hours. I mean, I can expect that I can give instruction when I go to bed. I can just create a Loom video and share with my team, like, hey, I have this big presentation tomorrow, a proposal, I need to present it to the client, or whatever that task is, right? And then I'll tell them, like, these are the areas where I need your help. This is the presentation. And when I will get up in the morning, presentation will be ready. So we kind of work around the clock. And same thing, if my team have something where they need my input, so they will just drop a note, we'll go to bed, I'll review and work on the daytime here, and we'll pass it to my team in Germany. They will review it. So we kind of work around the clock. And that actually gives us a great advantage, where we can deliver something to the client in a much better speed, because we have 3 different teams in 3 different continents, and they all are working in a different time zone. Does it make sense?
Yes, that makes complete sense. And it's really I love that. And that's the, it's which story do you want to tell? Like, in the sense that, I have to wait for this time zone to wake up, or am I going to figure out a way to like run my company so that we're always just moving forward around the world? Like, both are possible. And in the spirit of collaboration and multi-collab and asynchronous communication, that's the whole point. Like, it can really unlock incredible productivity and momentum, and also take some pressure off people to, where bottlenecks are removed. If I can collaborate around a piece of content just asynchronously without having to have a Zoom meeting about it, or a phone call, or an in-person meeting, it's empowering, and it's productivity enhancing. So go ahead.
Yeah, and it gives you more flexibility to design your routine as well, because in the morning, I have few hours blocked in my calendar where I take team meetings. But then from my 10 a.m. until 2 p.m., I have that time where I can work with my team here or clients here. And then 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time, those are the time where I'll go and we'll look into all our like task emails and Basecamp tickets that my team need a response from me. So then I can just respond to them, and when they get up, they will have all those responses. It's not something that because they are sleeping, it's not something, even if I like pick up a Basecamp task or email, there is no any motivation for me to respond it right now, because I know they are sleeping. But I can put it, so I have more flexibility to design my routine, that when I want to respond email, when I want to take meetings, and when I want to do more like a real-time conversation. So yeah, that also gives not only to me, but I have seen that other leadership team members in Multidots, they also feel the same way, where they feel like, oh wow, in this distributed and a multinational time zone, they get that freedom where they can kind of block different time for the different tasks. Because not everyone is working at the same time, where you randomly, someone will ping me at 2 o'clock, like, hey, I need this right now, so that I think I can design. I have that flexibility to design my routine that way.
That's awesome. Well, that's Anil Gupta. He's from Multidots. And in the spirit of WordPress, which is this content management system, Anil and his team have created a content collaboration management system here, which is super cool. It really pushes the game forward. Go check them out at multidots.com and multicollab.com. Any final words for the people or anywhere else they can connect with you?
So yeah, I'm available on Twitter. My last name Gupta Anil. So that's how we can we can connect. And yeah, pretty much I like to visit different WordCamps. So you can also find me in any WordCamps in the future. WordCamp US, I'm planning to attend that. If I had a chance. But yeah, it's really great to be here and connect with you, Chris.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Anil. I will see you at WordCamp US, hopefully. And then, yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime down the road. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story and multi-collab with us today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Chris.
And that's a wrap for this episode of LMS Cast. Did you enjoy that episode? Tell your friends and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And I've got a gift for you over at LifterLMS.com/gift. Go to LifterLMS.com/gift. Keep learning, keep taking action, and I'll see you in the next episode.